Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. My name is Cindy. Can you believe it? We're already at the middle of March, the Ides of March. So I want to take a look today. I'm hoping to do three sort of shorter readings today. I want to look at Trump, I want to look at Zelensky, and I want to look at Putin. So here we go. Shall we look at this? Hopefully I'm going to get them done in that order. So let's start with the wannabe king of Mar-a-Lago. So apparently he had some sort of, one of his rallies, whatever, this past weekend, and people were leaving early, okay, to start. But beyond that, he apparently told people in the audience that they had to fight with their life if necessary to protect the country from socialism and from Nazism and from, I don't know, whatever else he could come up with. It made absolutely no bloody sense. So a little unhinged he is. I saw a very short clip of that rally, and I don't know, he just, not well. All right, let's just take a look and see what's going on in his world. I honestly have sort of lost track of all of the, civil and criminal investigations that are going on around him. I really have. But let's just do an overview and see how he is doing with the March Madness that's going on here, shall we? Thank you for being here. To my new subscribers, thank you so much. Welcome to Soulprint. I hope you enjoy the Soulprint experience. To the commenters, thank you very, very much. And of course, all the views and the thumbs up, it's fabulous. I'm so grateful. I appreciate it so much. So thank you for that. All right, let's take a look and see how you know who is doing. Come on down. I have a question. All right, so here we go. Tell me about Trump. Tell me about Trump. Tell me about Trump. Okay, well, clearly he's doing a lot of juggling. Okay, so this is where we are sort of right now. So you have somebody who is, honestly, he's struggling to hold two almost different realities in his head. So one of them is that in his world, all of the lawsuits are going to come to nothing. Nothing. It's just fake news, and it's just, people who are out to destroy him and, whatever. And in the other hand, he's holding the reality that things aren't exactly going as well as he expected them to. And so as a result, he seems to be suffering some significant financial loss. So those seem to be the two kind of overwhelming, energies that are occupying his time. What he's finding is that a lot of those people who he thought he could count on are not being quite so lovey-dovey with him. Okay, now part of it is this, right? He praises, who that crazies are to high heavens. But with what's going on, a lot of the people in politics, still in office, are really, really having to step back. I mean, you got that, what's his name, Crawthorn guy? I mean, come on. He's going to find himself in significant trouble. But for the most part, there's not a lot of chitter-chatter supporting what is going on in Ukraine. And so he's finding himself in a place where even some of those people that he thought he could counter, they are pulling back because they're politicians. And you know, this has always been the thing about Trump is he wasn't a politician and he doesn't understand the rules of the game. And the rules of the game boil down to do whatever you can, get as much as you can, and get reelected again. Those are the rules as near as I can figure it as a layperson looking at it from the outside. So he's not understanding that as the winds shift, people who maybe were supportive of, you know, his sort of ideas and attitudes about Russia are starting to back away now because day after day after day, we're seeing these horrendous atrocities on our television. And it's very, very difficult to continue to take the stance that, oh, you know, Ukraine's going to be much happier when it's under Russian rule. Anyways, I don't know why all these people are fussing. Okay. He is falling, I'm sorry, but deeper and deeper kind of into his own state of confusion, into his own delusions. They are what really, really surrounds him now. And it feels very much like the only people who surround him are those people who are prepared to feed into that. But it feels very much as if his circle, his inner circle, is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. It really feels as if it's getting smaller instead of expanding. But irregardless of that, he's just determined to plow forward because, you know, that's what he knows. That's all he knows, right? In the face of adversity, double down, push forward, be like a bully, shove yourself front and center. So that's where he's at. And again, he feels as it, in some ways, everything around him feels a little bit like it's careening out of control. Part of the reason for that is there's so much information coming at him, um, frankly, from lawyers who probably are not really well equipped to do the job. But in any case, that's not my problem. But he's got all of this stuff sort of coming at him. And the reality is, he has lost track of kind of what is real and what is maybe not quite so real, or his ideas or attitudes about how things are going to unfold. So the circle is getting smaller, but he continues to sort of push forward in this sort of, with this kind of like crazed energy. Because literally he is now talking about, um, as near as I can figure it, like a civil war, you know, in the country. He's talking about the patriots, the people that support him. Those people need to lay down their lives. Well, why are they laying down their lives unless they're fighting somebody who doesn't agree with them? Okay. So that's his energy. That's where he's going. But don't forget, you have the three percenters. That guy just, I don't know, what, 6 years or something was his sentence, handed down by the jury. You have, you know, the Proud Boys. You have all the other varieties of them who were caught up in the insurrection. Those people are slowly starting to pull back because they're now starting to face some real significant punishment. And so, and again, he said he would take care of them, and he's not taking care of them. And so, even some of the more extremist views um, are pulling away. Now, understand a lot of those extremist people, they didn't necessarily completely agree with what he was saying as much as he was a good vehicle for their cause. Okay. And he, like, you know, an unwitting puppet, just sort of went along because, as far as he's concerned, they loved him and that was all he needed to know about them. That was it. If you loved me, you're great. So he's getting a lot of news that he doesn't like, and it's really throwing him into a tailspin right now because he doesn't want to hear the reality of the situation he's in, and he is really, really occupied with how much money he is losing or how much money he is not able to access now. I suspect that he had a good chunk of change in Russia, but it just feels like everywhere he turns financially, he is finding himself in a more and more difficult place. So a little while ago, he was on a flight. I think he was going from from New Orleans, maybe it was, to back to Florida. And the plane ended up having to turn around and go back because the plane was having like really serious engine trouble, and it needed to get on the ground. So I don't know. I do not know. But if the plane was his, if he still has a plane and the plane was his, he's obviously can't afford to maintain it. If he is begging for plane rides from other people, obviously maintaining those planes that they're offering who they want to be the next president again, obviously they don't have money. Maybe they gave most of it to the Trump campaign. I don't know. I'm just saying that everywhere Trump goes, he is seeing the exact opposite of abundance everywhere he turns. Okay, so there is a recognition of those around him, in the circle around him, that things are not going well for him. His messages is completely scrambled. Apparently, you know that what was it called? Truth Media, that media site that was going to be all the new rage. Apparently, he's only posted on it once. This thing is an absolute disaster. And there are people who are losing money because of it, and that's not so cool either. But the people around him are starting to recognize that his message is not resonating. Money is just like sand, through your hands, right? It's just vanishing. And the problems continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, unfortunately. And so they can see the writing on the wall. They understand that this sort of chapter is coming to an end. But he still wants to be king. And he wants to go back in the White House, because that is the only way he thinks he's not going to lose everything he's lost already. And the only way he can recover. He is in a state of, if I had to identify it, I would honestly say almost like acute grief. And that's weird because I'm not exactly sure he can feel grief, because I'm just not sure emotionally he has that component to him. But it sort of feels like there is sort of an awareness for what he is losing. And that seems to me, the grief. So, the difference between someone who is truly sorry for what they've done and somebody who is just sorry they got caught. So he absolutely definitely falls in that latter category. And that any grief that he's feeling, that's where it's coming from. Okay. It's not because he feels the slightest twinge of remorse. He's not in him. He doesn't know how to function that way. All right. Let's take a look at President Zelensky of Ukraine. Now, I am recording this later on Sunday afternoon. And so, there are obviously going to be things happening in the next couple of days that I'm not aware of as I'm sitting here recording this. But I want to take a look at him and see how he's doing, how his family is doing, and what support he has, and what's coming around him. All right, here we go. Tell me about Zelensky. Tell me about Zelensky. Tell me about Zelensky. Okay. So, first of all, the first thing I want to tell you is he is absolutely being protected, but not only by the people on the ground, not only by the Ukrainians and the army, the citizens, etc., but he is also being sort of magically protected. So there's, high vibration beings that are around him. Now, he continues to move forward. I got to say, it feels as if there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. And in some ways, I have to say, this constant sort of, we need a no-fly zone, we need a no-fly zone, we need a no-fly zone. I'm wondering if in some ways that is not a wee little bit of a distraction, because that's all that keeps getting said. But we know that virtually on a day-to-day basis, he is in communications with multiple presidents and prime ministers. He is in communication with NATO. And it kind of makes me wonder if, well, he absolutely needs a no-fly zone. I'm not suggesting he doesn't, but what I'm saying is, I wonder if that's not a little bit of maybe sleight of hand, so that everybody thinks that this is what they're concentrating on. And meanwhile, stuff is coming in that is creating a sense of protection. So maybe other equipment, I don't know, but it just feels a little bit like there's way more going on politically, okay, than we are aware of right now. He has the right on his side. And by that, I mean he is going to be on the right side of history, okay? He is fighting a noble and just cause, and the Ukrainians around him are. There is the reality that, honestly, he can only be bullied, and the country can only be bullied for so long before, it starts to sort of collapse a little bit. So as I'm recording this, my understanding is that that convoy is something like about, I think they said 20 miles um, away from Kiev. So certainly by Tuesday, that could have changed unless they figure out a way to um, destroy some of those convoys, so that that movement gets halted again. And of course, where they can't get into the cities because they're so well protected by Ukrainians on the ground, they're doing these airstrikes with these air missiles, right, and just destroying stuff indiscriminately. So he has a lot of support. He has protection around him. There's definitely more communication, I guess I want to say, going on than maybe we realize. And that can only be a good thing. In some way, there really is sort of a lot of celebration is the wrong word, but a lot of pride in maybe the success that those civilian and military troops have had in his country, sort of pushing back against kind of the big bad wolf, right? But there is a lot of energy coming forward. There is a lot of information and insight coming forward. There's a lot going on, I'm sorry, that we just flat don't know about, and I don't know about it either. I just know energetically there's more stuff going on than meets the eye. There are partnerships coming into place for him. He is getting the supplies he needs. He has the Sun card. He has the Success card. Now, do I think that they're actually going to be able to completely stave off Russia and make Russia run away? No, I don't. But I do think that things are going to happen that are going to sort of change his fortunes, or put him in a place where he has a little bit more power behind him, success behind him. I was thinking the other day that so I woke up this morning about that news that Russia had bombed a sort of a military base, and the thing is only like 20 miles or something from the border of Poland. And it made me wonder what would happen and how fast people would react if um, something happened and one of those bombs veered off a little more, west or east, I guess east, than it should. And that trigger NATO? I don't know. I'm just asking a question out there. But what I'm saying is he's got some really, really lovely and supportive cards. And so ultimately, it really does feel like he is going to be able to hold his own, or he will be able to reclaim the country, because I really think that at the point where Putin gets Kiev, or Kiev, depending on how you pronounce it, but I think at that point, that's when Putin might start going off in other directions, because let's remember, he hasn't used all of his military might. So very interesting. But as of right now, Zelensky energetically is in a good place. And yes, things are falling down. They're crashing down. Those bombs are landing and they're destroying stuff and they're breaking stuff. And that's okay, because there is stuff that is trying to get stolen from Ukraine, from the Ukrainian people. And it's a hard job right now, but ultimately, there is going to come a time of like a return to that which was calmer, a return to that which was normal, perhaps a little bit more back to a time where people were a little bit more innocent, if you will, than they're thinking. So, one of the things that really struck me in the initial days when they were doing like a lot of commentary about, how people in Ukraine were reacting, and one of the things that you heard over and over and over again was they really didn't believe that that Ukraine would actually ever attack them. They just, it was one of the things that just sort of really threw them off their game, because they didn't believe that Russia would ever do that to sort of those, brothers and sisters, if you will, across the border. Um, so, but it feels as if that, there's going to be peace coming. I did say that March, I've said it several times, unfortunately, that March was going to be a very bloody month. It was going to be dangerous, but that things were ultimately going to come kind of to a place where there was at least some sort of justice served, some sort of balance. Always remember this: if Russia manages to take the capital city, which is Kyiv, that they in effect have conquered Russia, okay? Because it's like, if somebody were to take Washington, D.C., that is the ruling base of the country, just like if somebody were to go after Ottawa, Canada, okay? But there will be no end to the insurrections, no end, until Ukraine is restored to the Ukrainian people. All right, let's look at Putin. Now, I want to just have a bit of a rant here for a minute, okay? So, with Trump, and now with Putin, there is this sense of, well, everything they're doing and have done is absolutely horrible, but, maybe they're an agent for change. Maybe this was destiny. Understand this: every single person has free will. And yes, there are soul contracts, and yes, there are spiritual contracts, and there's a whole lot of stuff put in place. But when somebody consistently, fanatically chooses the lower vibration choice, hate, anger, rage, theft, that is not an agent for change. That is somebody who was given multiple choices to make good choices and consistently has not made good choices. Now, does that create a sense of change? Yeah, very often it sure does. But I want to be careful that we sort of don't, get into any kind of habit where we're kind of like saying, well, he's an agent for change. And so therefore, even though everything he did was absolutely horrendous, we sort of have to look at it through those lenses. Sometimes you just have to look at it through the lenses of whatever this person's or soul's intentions were when they came to the planet, when they were born. And yes, people choose to be born, and they choose to be born in specific situations because that is going to help them with their soul print. It's going to help them with the things that they wanted to accomplish in a given lifetime. But in no way, shape, or form does that take any sort of a backseat to free will. It just doesn't. And sometimes I think we just have to face the fact that some people are just really in such a dark place. They function in such a dark and heavy vibration that yes, while they are creating change, it's not for any higher intended purpose. That's my perception of things. Um, you know, it. I don't want to get into the sort of the thought processes of saying, well, they're horrible, but maybe that was what they wanted to do. Maybe they're supposed to be this big agent for change. Well, you know what? By saying that, what you're saying is that the only way change can happen is through low vibration energy. And you and me, we know that change happens through positive, powerful light energy. That's the end of my rant. Agent for change, my butt. It's called Agents for Destruction. Okay, I guess I wasn't quite finished ranting. Let's take a look at Putin. Come on down. Okay, and I once again just ask that in the comment section you be cautious about kind of naming names. One of my rather brilliant viewers commented that her name for the wannabe czar is Stubbs. I really like that, okay? But try to not reference in your comments the actual names of these people, because the last thing I want to do is then have to get myself into a troll fight, okay? So just be mindful of that, please. All right. Tell me about Putin, tell me about Putin, tell me about Putin. So part of one of the things that Putin has been really struggling with is he's dealing with an army that, despite all the money he has, a lot of stuff that he thought was going to strengthening the army, to modernizing the army. Well, that's kind of not exactly where it went. A lot of that money was siphoned off to the oligarchs, and they were living, frankly, high on the hog. Thank you very much. They were having a grand old time. Meanwhile, apparently it is said, I don't know this, but it is said by perhaps people who do know, that it's sort of understood by those around the czar, the wannabe czar, is that if you bring him bad news, you're likely to get eliminated. So who's going to say, wow, Stubbs, apparently, yeah, your army isn't quite as modernized as you think, because all that money didn't go to them. It went into the oligarchs' pockets. It went into yachts and apartments, etc., etc., etc. And so he actually thought that he was fighting with a much different army than he actually has discovered he has been fighting with, okay? So now he finds himself in a place where there is no road that he can see going forward except just holding on to his position and staying just exactly that stubborn and just exactly that determined to get what his greedy little fists want. And what it wants right now is the country of Ukraine. And don't kid yourself, he's then going to go after all those nations around him. So this is going to come to an end for him. Like, this is not going to turn into a 2-year war. Okay. I don't even think it's going to turn into a 3 or 4 month war. Okay. But for right now, he's kind of in a place where, in a lot of ways, he's, I would love to know how this expression is said in Ukrainian, but literally, fake it till you make it. That's kind of what he's doing, right? He's faking the strength, he's faking the domination until he can somehow get himself grounded again and figure out how the hell he is supposed to go forward with a army that is not anywhere near in the shape or condition he believed it to be in. And that's part of the reason why he keeps threatening anybody who in any way. So now it's like, the United States better not send any more, some kind of a missile or something, into Ukraine, because that's going to, everything with him is an act of war. And I'm afraid that's not going to happen. What is going on here is he, like somebody else we just read on, has sort of lost his sense of balance. He is being driven by a real an energy that says you must not fail, you must not fail at any cost, you must not fail. You have to put together the USSR. You have to put it back together again. And nobody wants that except him. He is not going to escape justice, okay? And he's going to pay a price. So, does that mean that he really does end up at The Hague with, being charged with, what is that, international war crimes? But there is justice coming down the road for him. And even if for some reason he is not still in physical form down the road a little bit, in that way he will have paid sort of, with his life. But there is going to be payment extracted for the injustices he has perpetrated on other people. And the balancing of those scales is not going to be a very pretty or comfortable place for him to be in. He's going to find that, and I think that he really believed that people were not going to push back. They didn't push back with Crimea, and why would they? And why would they push back about more of that same country? And so he's finding himself in a place where he just doesn't have the support he really hoped. And I don't even want to use the word support. It was almost like he just didn't have the silence that he anticipated. What he got was a lot of people yelling and screaming and throwing as much money and as much support to the country that found themselves in this completely unprovoked war. He needs to be careful, frankly, about, he needs to be careful about the Russian people, because while there are still a great many of them who believe what they were told, which was that Ukraine is being run by Nazis, I don't even understand that. Like, I don't even understand that. Was it not the Nazis that persecuted the Jews? And Zelensky is Jewish. So the whole thing confuses me. And that's just the thing, they toss words out there, and they don't even make logical sense anyways. Obviously, I have a lot of things to say about this stuff. So he needs to be careful because the Russian people are going to be tired of not being accounted, not being taken into consideration. And they are aiming towards their own victory. This is the Russian people, not the Russian army, but those people who are in Russia are going to start pushing for a new start, a change, new partnerships, and new success. And none of that has to do with what Putin's out there trying to accomplish. I just want to lay out some more cards and just see where we're going with this. Yeah, so again, he's finding that he does not have the assets that he thought he had. He's still in that place of needing to rule. He's ruling absolutely with an iron fist. Anybody who comes at him with words or ideas or news that is not what he wants to hear, absolutely, they end up in trouble. So slowly but surely, the very thing he is trying to expand on, which is, I guess, I don't know, Russian square footage, is all going to end up coming down because he can't sustain what he has. Because people are getting wiser and wiser to him. He's going to find himself in a defensive position, and he's going to find himself continuing to be in a place where his fortunes are changing. And a lot of the dirty deeds or the evilness or all of that, the corruption, all of that kind of stuff. So, of course, I'm obviously reading The Magician upside down, right? It reversed. A lot of that is going to come out. And even those oligarchs, one of whom has a bounty on the guy's head, are going to find themselves really in a place where they're going to be hard pressed to justify their behavior, their reactions, etc., etc., etc. Okay, that's what I know for now. Have a good week. Let's keep all of those positive thoughts and energies moving in the direction of President Zelensky and his family and the civilians and the military of Ukraine. And let's also send positive thoughts and energies and domes of protection to those who are now refugees, who have escaped to other countries and literally ran away from their country with the clothes on their back. Let's keep them all in our thoughts and in our prayers. And when I say thoughts and prayers, understand that is about creating domes of protection. It is about, creating light that surrounds them and blesses them. It's not a, thoughts and prayers are not a noun, they're verb. It's action. They require action. And I ask you to continue that energy up and rolling and moving forward because, wow, against all odds, they're still fighting a whole bunch of days later. Until next time, take care. Be well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.